Okay, you guys seemed to really enjoy day one of Krieg week with the artillery team. So let's come in hot with day two and show you guys how to paint up the beautiful new plastic Death Riders from this box set. There's 10 of them, so they are basically the primary focus of this box set, being led by a marshal as well. So a whole mounted contingent exists inside of this box set. So I'm very excited to show you guys some really quick and easy techniques to get these guys painted. A couple of extra tips and tricks to make them really fit in that grim dark setting. And by the end of this video, hopefully you will be comfortable getting your own Death Riders painted up. Before I get into the video, just a huge thank you to all of my active patrons and everyone that supports Mediocre Hobbies and all of the different ways it is possible to do so. The best way, of course, is via Patreon. That is linked down in the description below. People on Patreon get access to an extra video every single week, and they get access to the Discord server where they can talk to me on a daily basis about their hobby and participate in all the different Mediocre Hobby activities that we host over there, painting competitions and showcases and all that kind of bits and pieces. So if that sounds like something that's interesting you, check it out. Like I said, linked down below. Without further ado, let us dive in and get this Death Rider painted up. Okay, so here's an example of one of the new plastic Death Riders, all built up and sprayed with black and then a light gray coat over the top of it to act as a little bit of a zenithal. I have a whole video showing you how to do that if you are so curious. I'll leave it linked down below. So as you can see, the sculpts are just magnificent. They're so beautiful. And you do get 10 of them, not including the marshal on horse in the box set. So finding a nice scheme that's quick and easy to do and gives you nice results, I figured would be important for quite a lot of you. So that's what I'm going to try and deliver in today's video. The first thing we are going to do is get the skin tone of the Death Rider horse itself bashed out fairly quickly and fairly simply. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a solid coat of skeleton horde contrast across the entire beast. So everywhere that there is some of its skin showing. Now, obviously, it's not a normal horse. As you notice, it doesn't have hooves. It has razor sharp claws designed for gripping and fighting. These beasts are cloned, so it works a treat for those. After that, we're going to move over to something like Carrick Stone, and we are going to dry brush up the entire horse with that color. It's going to be a very quick step, but this is going to give us a really nice tone for all of the horse's skin. And that's pretty much all I'm going to do for the horse. He will get weathered a little bit later on, but as it stands, that skin tone I think works really well, and I'm more than happy to move on and start painting some of the other details that exist across this miniature. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to grab wildwood, and I'm going to get all the leather straps, all the barding, all of the saddle parts, everything like that done across this model. If you've watched my video on the infantry, obviously we're going to carry that through to the model himself. So his gas mask, his backpack, the belt around his waist, all the other bits and pieces that exist on the Kriegsman himself. And then, like I said, make sure you don't miss any of the bits, like all the bits holding on the horse's armor panels and stuff are all going to be covered in wildwood as well. And this might actually be the slowest step of painting this entire miniature, getting these done. So obviously you don't want to hit any of the horse with the wildwood, as we've already finished that off. You don't want to make a mess of it. Space Wolf's grey contrast is then brought in to do, obviously, the Death Rider himself. So his jacket, and then some of the armor panels on the horse as well. I did an infantry video a couple of weeks ago showing you 3 different schemes to paint the Death Rider. Or, sorry, a Death Korps Kriegsman himself. 3 different schemes. So you could follow along with this video steps on how to paint the horse, then take the information from one of those, the 3 examples that I did, and do it for the guy on top. So you can mix the videos together and follow through with a different scheme. If this kind of blue scheme isn't to your liking, we've got different options out there, so don't worry about that. After the blue is in place, we're going to go for Black Templar. Now, unlike normal Kriegsmen who have like the boots and then they have the gaiters, these guys are wearing riding boots, which of course makes a lot of sense. So big black boots. And then they'll carry through for a couple of different black details across the hoses that connect the gas mask to the gas part on the horse and on the rider. The actual lance that he's holding, I decided to do the main body of the lance in a black. And then any other details out there that you think is suitable for black, you can do with that color as well. There's not too many. Did all the claws of the horse in black as well while I was doing it. I think that works out well. Blood Angel's red is then introduced for some accent color. So I actually went for the kind of softer part of the saddle being red as well. That pokes through underneath the rider. This guy has a red sash because he is the sergeant of the squad. Normal Death Riders don't have that. So he'll have a little bit more red than normal across the sash. And then obviously the flag coming off of the lance, we're going to do in red as well. The reason I chose red is if you look at the Marshal, he has a sash around his waist and it's flowing in red, so it'll blend in nicely with those guys. And obviously while I was there, you're going to do the eye lenses of the horse and the eye lenses of the Kriegsman as well, with a little bit of red contrast. Lead Belcher was then brought in for all the silver details. Obviously Death Riders are like front line, like close combat specialists, so they are actually quite a lot more armed and armored than a regular corpsman. So obviously he's got a nice chest piece of armor, he's got shoulder, he's got, you know, protecting his greaves, his van braces, even big armored helmet which comes down his cheeks. And then any other details like that, some parts of the lance itself. And then like just other bits and pieces you will notice. So if you take your time and go through all the buckles holding together all of the leather straps, and he's got like a comms unit on the side of his backpack. Obviously these guys range further outside of the normal kind of network of military communication than a normal squad of corpsmen. So obviously they're going to have little specialist radios and stuff, which I think is really cool. Just make sure you get all those bits and pieces done. And then we're going to grab some Retributor Armor Gold. And just do any of the like Aquilas or any of the nice fancy details that exist. So obviously on the chest of the horse, there's a big Aquila on the helmet of the rider itself. And then like I said, if you find any other bits and pieces you think require a bit of gold, don't hesitate to paint it in. After this, all the base coats are on, it's time to shade it. So we're going to go Seraphim Sepia and shade everything except for the horse's skin. Like I said, we're good on the horse's skin right now. We really like the tone. We're going to dirty it up with some pigments later on, but right now it's perfect. So Seraphim Sepia, every other part of the Death Rider. So the rider on top, all the barding, the horse's gas mask, all those bits and pieces. Make sure you get a nice solid coat of sepia. And while that's drying, I am going to base the miniature up as well. The same way that I base all of my Kriegsmen up, that same tone. I've done it in a million videos before, but it's just a nice kind of earthly tone brown, which kind of suits them. After that, we're going to go on and start layering up these miniatures. So we're going to start with the Fang, layering up the jacket and the armor panels on the horse's chest, the top of the horse's gas mask, the horse's like snout bit I've gone for, and the kind of blue armor paneling on that as well. So just a few bits and pieces, make sure you take your time. Follow like the contours of the jacket, you know, highlight the higher bits, leave the recessed bits nice and shadowed. And then when you're doing the armor panels, pick the same direction, trying to minimize the amount of like brush strokes and stuff. Get nice clean coats. We will be adding some scratching to the nice armor panels later on and some weathering with the powder, like I said. So you don't need to worry right now if it looks a little bit flat. We will fix that in a little minute, because that's what will happen with this guy. As we go through the layering stage, he starts to look a little bit too clean for a rider, a little bit too pristine for a corpsman out in the middle of nowhere fighting God only knows what. So I think the weathering we do at the end really does add quite a lot to the model. Mornfang Brown is then brought in to highlight all the areas we did Wildwood. So all the straps, all the barding, all the saddle, all those bits and pieces, you're going to hit with that color, and it's going to make those details pop really nicely. Sometimes I think Mornfang is a little bit too bright to highlight these straps with. So if you decide you want to go for something a little bit darker, I like things like Katachan flesh and stuff. I think they work really well for highlighting those leather details, but that's up to you. Okay, now the red details, like I said, we want to make those pop a little bit more. So we're going to do a two-stage highlight. We're going to go with Fist on, and then we're going to Evil Sun Scarlet, and we're going to highlight all those bits. So the sash, the little saddle bit that he's sitting on, the flag off of the lance, and bits like that. So make sure. I've also done the handle of the lance in red as well. Just once again, nice accent color, adds a little pop of color. And you can see the horse's eye lenses are done, and the corpsman's eye lenses are done as well. Evil Sun Scarlet coming in with the extra highlight. Same details again, just same highlights, just a little bit less. You want to hit the really kind of highest points of all these details with that, and that'll make that red pop really nicely. We are coming into the kind of end games, only a couple of steps left to really make this guy pop. So Corvus Black to highlight the black areas, so his riding boots and the lance that he's holding. We're going to get a very quick coat of black. This works really well. Like, it's very simple. He's wearing black boots. You don't have to overthink it, do crazy highlights and that. Same with the lance. I don't think the actual the shaft of the lance itself is going to be the primary focus. We're going to be adding some glow effect to the bit on the end, the explosive bit on the end, in a minute, and I think that'll look cool. Okay, Lead Belcher, bringing that back in and re-highlighting up all of the metallic bits. The sepia, dirty it down, and we're going to leave that dirtied sepia color in all the recesses, but the higher points, we're going to kind of like a mottled highlight to that. Real scratchy, adding lots of texture, not really worried too much about like pristine coats. And then as you can see, I'm also going to drag that across the armor panels of the horse as well. So that's going to add that kind of scratchy highlight and stuff to that. Okay, Carrick Stone brought in to highlight any of the like gas masks. So the gloves of the rider, the gas mask of him, the little like custom thing on his back. He's got like wraps that hold on his armor panels as well on the inside of his van braces. So make sure you get those all highlighted as well. And then the Talazar blue brought in for like the shock gold lance that he seems to be carrying. Maybe that's not the right color. Maybe this is just an explosive tip and it should be painted like a grenade. I quite like the idea of it being like an energized lance tip. So I decided to go for another little bit of a spot color, bright blue with Talazar. Okay, now with gloves in tow, I've pulled out my pigment box, which is just this messy thing that you really don't want to touch clothes or carpet or anything like that. It's horrible. So gloves and this box, and as you can see, I've spilled pigment in it so much and so often that I'm actually just scooping it up out of the box itself and then feeding it into different areas of the horse. I'm not trying to go overboard. I just wanted in a couple of areas to darken it down and grime up some certain areas. I gave it a quick coat of Minotaur varnish to help the pigment stick in place and seal the whole model. And that gives us our final result. The first of the new Death Riders from the new Krieg Army box set is painted up and ready to go. Really happy with the final result. Cannot wait to see what the whole squad, 10 of them with the Marshal, is going to look like on the tabletop. Here's a couple of still images to give you guys an example of what he might look like on a tabletop. Hopefully you did enjoy this and you are hungry to see more of the Krieg releases as I bring them to the channel in the next couple of days and weeks. Okay guys, and there we have it, our first new plastic Death Rider, fully finished and ready for the tabletop. I actually have 4 more already sprayed and I've already started to get base coats on them. So I'm going to do them 5 guys at a time until all of these beautiful horses are painted and ready for the tabletop. So very excited, really happy with the final result. Just like I kind of learned when I did the Proxy Wars Ogren last week, the Krieg Ogren, adding the weathering powder to the end of slightly larger models really does add an effect to it. It really does like put it right in that setting. Usually I save the powder for things like artillery pieces or tanks or anything bigger. Infantry don't usually get it. Like I said, it worked really well in the Ogren and I think it really worked really well on the Death Rider as well. It's an optional extra, so you guys can choose whether to add it or not. But I, for one, really like the final result. Hopefully you guys are excited for the next day. The next day for the Krieg Week is actually going to be the Engineer, as long as with their little like mold explosive device as well. But that is going to be an exclusive Patreon video out tomorrow. So if you want to check that out, you are going to have to sign up to the Patreon and help support the channel. If you want to support the channel without spending a penny, make sure that you do like the videos, make sure you're subscribed, and make sure you ask questions in the comments. Doing these 3 things helps push out these videos to more people, which of course helps the channel grow to bigger and greater heights. So please do think about doing those. All right, thank you guys so much for sticking around at the end of the video. Hopefully you're looking forward to the rest of the week, including something very special for Saturday, but we won't talk about that until Saturday. See you in the next one, guys.